Hello and welcome into the JaxUSL Report. I'm Cole Pemper along with Mauricio Ruiz, and boy, have we had some soccer news to dig into over the last week, and we will do that here and now. And Mauricio, I think we have to start with what has been the biggest soccer story in the world, and that is Leo Messi making his debut for an American soccer team, and what a debut it was for Inter Miami. Everybody probably by now has seen the highlight, if not to watch the game. A Hollywood-level script for Messi to come in and kick the game winner in stoppage time. What a moment. Now the question is, what kind of reverberations is this going to have in the American soccer scene?
Yeah, it wasn't in California, so not in Hollywood, but very much a Hollywood-style game, with Beckham being the first LA kind of Hollywood signing that we had, and now it's his boss. I think the night just called for it. He comes on with 30 minutes left into the game, gets handed the captain badge. The crowd was just waiting for it. So to get a foul on top of the box, the last 9 minutes of the game, seconds of the game, and to put it away the way he did, I think that was just special. I really think that, they're last place in the MLS standings, right, in the East. So I don't think they're going to get an opportunity to really climb into maybe not even a playoff spot, but League Cup is something new. Right, and he comes in on the first game of the League Cup, where it's a brand new competition. He's got a few days here to kind of get his legs underneath his belt. He's got Sergio Busquets, he's got Jordi Alba, potentially some other signings that might be coming. It would be interesting if they focus on League Cup as really the priority and the only thing they possibly attain and lean on going into next year.
Well, the other thing to note is the kind of impact that Messi can have on his team. You mentioned League Cup, but creating a change in terms of the culture. Paul Tenorio from The Athletic wrote a great piece kind of detailing what the 10 days leading up to that moment were really all about and the impact that Messi is having. He held up the shirt of a injured teammate and dedicated the game to that teammate who had a third straight ACL injury. The fact that Messi is coming in and being the first at the training site and going out of his way to be a great teammate, there could be an on-field impact for Messi beyond just what he does for the team.
Well, if you imagine a lot of these players that are playing with him, they were in college, they were playing youth, some of them were playing in different parts of the world, second division. Now they get to share a field with the greatest player of all time. And I know it's an argument, but I have my opinion on that. And now they get to see that he is human. What he does on the field doesn't look human-like. In fact, he looks like he's from a different world. But when he gets around, he is human. He's sharing his tickets with his teammates, right? There's a story about who needs extra tickets, and he was able to share that. I think his approach, it's what makes him who he is. There aren't a whole lot of any really negative things about Messi over his career. And you talk about a guy that's been in a spotlight for 15 plus years, or at the level that he's been at, there's really not a whole lot that you can pull away and put a negative blemish on his career. So when his players get to see him, how he behaves, I think that's going to transfer to their intensity and to how they want to play for him. I saw in the World Cup. Argentina was not the best team in the World Cup, but his teammates played for him. That was clear cut that the reason why Messi won a World Cup this past year cycle is because his teammates fought for him. They struggled for him because they know what a great person he is. And he's deserving of it because of the magnitude of a player that he is.
Let's turn our attention to the Women's World Cup now. As we have recorded this, the women have won their first match, taking down Vietnam 3-0. They'll play on Wednesday night. We'll get to that here in just a moment against the Netherlands. Big picture feeling now after having seen a match. What are your thoughts? Any concerns with the women as they go for a historic third straight World Cup?
No concerns. I think it's it's first game. I think there's expectations that they would have been by 6 or 7 or 8 or 1 odd. They created and they had 21 plus shots on goal. They converted on 3. They missed a PK. I think you play this game 10 times over, it is probably a 5+ scoreline. Vietnam never really threatened. They were fit. The U.S. kept fighting towards the end. They got players in that maybe they weren't anticipating getting in. Coach does have a full allotment of players at his disposal. So I thought it was a good performance. Not a great performance, but if you look around the first round of games, there aren't a whole lot of perfect performances yet. It's getting their feet underneath them. So I thought it was a good performance overall.
Wednesday night's going to be the big group stage match for the United States against the team they beat for the championship last time around. That is the Netherlands. And if you want to join us for the Women's World Cup watch party, come on out to Colhane's on the south side. You can reserve your spot by going to JaxUSL.com. As always, that's also where you can put your deposit down for season tickets. But we welcome you to come out and watch the women on Wednesday night if you are watching this before Wednesday rolls around. So, That's what we have for the Women's World Cup side. Let's take a look now at the USL Championship. That certainly has become an issue. You start talking about getting into the final third of the season. The stretch drive is in the not too distant future, and in Mauricio's corner, we're going to take a closer look at how the standings lay out, but also how these teams are sort of operating in what can be a very difficult time in the season, Mauricio. Sort of the dog days of the season before you can really start looking at those playoff matchups. This is going to be a transformative time in the year.
Well, absolutely. I think this is kind of where the league hits its peak, and some teams that were flying, maybe because they were healthy earlier. I think that has a lot to do with performance and results, the health of your team, how early you've come into preseason, and really some teams that are returning. In the USL Championship, sometimes there's a big roster turnover. So some teams that returned from last year have done extremely well. If you look at someone like the Rowdies, they have 17 new faces into their environment. So they started slow, and now they started tracking a little bit. But then, I mean, you're 21 games into the season. So there's going to be that bit of a low. Injuries come back around, and some teams start getting healthy now as well. Maybe players that they weren't counting on before, they start getting healthy, and that's when you start seeing some results now starting to kind of be lopsided one way or another.
All right, let's take a look at the results from the past week. We saw some of those numbers. The ones that jump right out at me, you see Orange County putting up 4 in a victory over suddenly struggling Memphis. Oakland Roots with a big win over a team that's been rolling up until this point. El Paso 3-1. Anything else really jump out at you?
Well, you look at New Mexico against Sacramento Republic. I mean, the Sacramento Republic's a team that they do score a whole lot, but they don't give up anything. So for them to go into New Mexico and give up 3 goals to a team in New Mexico that's been struggling a little bit, one of the teams that's starting to come into form. So I think that's what, they're the number 1 in the West, and they've held that number 1 position for a long time. To go to New Mexico and go down 3-0, that's a big statement for New Mexico.
Well, let's take a look at the standings as we start with the Western Conference, and you see Sacramento and San Antonio on top. But New Mexico, as you mentioned, suddenly has started to hit their stride. 5 games without a defeat, getting them into 7th in the playoff positioning, and boy, there is some competition for those last couple of playoff spots in the West.
Well, playoff is really the best thing that we have as far as games of consequence in relation to promotion, relegation in other leagues. So getting to that 7, 8, 9, 10 position, as you mentioned, 2 points separating them. So the next 10 games, dozen of games that are left into the season, for those teams that are hanging out at the bottom there at the playoff line, will be massive.
And that's the West. Now let's look at the East. You talk about the playoff chase here as well. Tulsa has moved up into 7th position on the strength of 5 straight victories with Detroit right there. But boy, you look at the separation between Detroit at 8, Indy, Loudoun, and Miami, all within 3 points. A win can really switch who's hanging on there at the bottom of the playoff table.
Well, Tulsa's a great example of putting together a couple strings of games. There are 5 games on the road now. They were at the bottom of the league a couple weeks ago, but now they've put 5 games straight. Now they're not just outside above the playoff line. They're actually starting to have a conversation. How do we get into the middle of the top 8? And as you mentioned, Detroit, Indy, and Loudoun, if they can put together 3 to 4 games on a row as Tulsa did, they start getting a little bit of separation and getting more comfortable getting to the playoffs.
All right, let's take a look at our game of the week here in the USL Championship, and it was a couple of teams that have been very successful this year. Charleston taking on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. This is a game in Charleston, and what a performance by the Battery on the score sheet. But you had a kind of an interesting insight into how they're scoring their goals.
Yeah, the Battery, I mean, they've been fantastic all year long. They've been on the top 2 or 3, and they're sitting 2nd place even after this victory here. But they're not a team that really create goals out of one specific method. They don't have they're not possessing the ball, getting the ball out wide. They're just a team that's very opportunistic in the way they score. They have their players, Augie Williams, play on the last line. So any opportunity you have to spring him along, whether it's off of a dead ball or a scramble ball, he's always just itching to get in there. And that's exactly how they got on the scoreboard here, Cole. So I wanted to show you, they're fantastic on set pieces as well. Coach has them really well trained to be dynamic on set pieces. Palma coming up from he's a center back, he's a huge target, almost left unmarked there a little bit. It's a big body getting to the box. But Battery, Coach Permer's team, will be a team that will always be dominant on set pieces. So you have to play them smart on set pieces.
There's another look at it, and as you mentioned, unmarked in the box, and the header goes in to make it a 1-0 Charleston lead.
Yeah, and you see here, once again, just on set pieces, always opportunistic, getting second chance opportunities, just 10 minutes after that, getting another corner. But Riverhounds are a good team. They do possess, they do get the ball out wide, they get crossed into the box, and the game could have evened out here only within a few minutes.
Well, then, about 10 minutes after that, another opportunity.
Yeah, and once again, set piece, Battery deals well with the first ball, but Pittsburgh, they're greedy. They're in this position for a reason. They were the better. They have typically more possession, but out of nothing, big long ball, clearance from the back line, get a little flick. Well, look to be on offsides. There's no VAR in the USL Championship just yet, and Augie Williams gets the second goal.
Well, and you talk about taking advantage of the opportunities, not necessarily a build-up, not necessarily what you would call something you chalkboard out and put it out there. But that's exactly how Charleston's finding goals right now. Well,
that's exactly it. And you see the Riverhouse staff talking, to the fourth official. It did look like he was offsides, but Augie Williams will stay on the back line. He'll stay right on the edge of the back line. Once again, you see him here getting a shot off, and the replay will show a little bit better. But nice, cool, and collected. Avila puts the game at 3-0.
All right, let's take another look, a closer look at this, because you sort of see the theme building here with Augie Williams and the impact he's having in terms of the style he's playing as that attacking forward for Charleston.
Yeah, he's a player that's constant on the last line. You can see a bit of a broken play, but once again, where's he at? He's on the last line. He's between the shoulders of the defenders. He gets an opportunity. Does a good job to get a shot off, but Avila follows the play and gets a bit of a tap in. Nice, cool, and collected.
That makes it 3-0, and into the 70th minute they go with Charleston certainly in control on the scoreboard. Pittsburgh still attacking.
But you see what I'm talking about, Pittsburgh, the team that likes to control possession. They swing the ball around, they get it to the wide areas, and a great goal to finish to make it 3-1.
And in the waning moments here, another opportunity for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and great job. And one of the better keepers in the league now, Moose, who's just coming out big, holding on to the lead. They're at home, great energy. You see there on the replay. Dika getting grabbed by his shoulders, but Musa comes out and shuts him down.
And one more cosmetic goal at the end, an opportunity here for Pittsburgh, but the victory for Charleston 3-1. And as you mentioned, two very contrasting styles, and sometimes that makes for great matchups, and I think we have some of that coming up in our next game of the week.
Yeah, because if you give the Battery a lead, and they were able to get a lead, and they went to halftime with less things of halftime, they got a lead of 2-0. They're going to be a difficult team to beat. As I look into next week and look at Tulsa versus Rowdies, Rowdies still trying to figure their life after New Collins. He left for England, and Tulsa, they're on 5 games win streak. So it's going to be interesting to see. Tulsa are a hot team. Rowdies, they really haven't figured out life without it just yet, but I think they're going to start kind of rolling as well, and they're staying on top of the East.
And it will be something to watch for sure. We'll be keeping an eye on the playoff push, and if you want to be a part of USL Championship with JaxUSL in the future, go to JaxUSL.com, put down your season ticket deposits right now. A great way to ensure your spot as pro soccer returns to Jacksonville. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube as well. Hope you can join us next week. For Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks for watching the JaxUSL Report.